Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is harmonize versus compromise. And what we're going to be talking about is the difference between creating a lose-lose solution of compromise where both sides are unhappy with the result, mutually unhappy, versus solutions based on harmonizing where everybody wins. And I think it'll be a really interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and very, very softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation. Really allow yourself to connect to the magical fact that we're able to experience sensation in these remarkable physical forms that enable us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. It's great to be here with you. I did check that we are live on Facebook. So if you want to share comments, go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and you can enter comments there and I should be able to see them, hopefully. We've been navigating some technical challenges lately, but I think we're in pretty good shape. So we're talking about harmonize versus compromise. And we have in our culture, one of the, it seems that when we're having negotiations, what we elevate as a positive result is when both sides compromise. And you know you've made a good deal if both sides are a bit dissatisfied with the outcome. So what we have conditioned ourselves to accept is essentially a lose-lose proposition. And I think that this perspective has implications for a foundational paradigm of being, you know, that we have elevated dissatisfaction as as one of our highest possible results. And that's a bit crazy and rather cynical, I think, but it's just generally accepted, you know, that we're going to reach a compromise. That's how we reach agreements, is we reach a compromise, and that compromise is less than optimal for both sides. And if we're equally dissatisfied, then we have a solid result. It's crazy. It's crazy. Where this topic came from. And by the way, I'm not seeing any comments. So if I'm not responding to your comments, that's why. You can go to Enlightened World Network Facebook page and you should be able to enter comments there. And I promise that when I see your comments, I will respond to them. Anyway, where this topic came from was through an interview I did for my podcast called Sustainability Now, where we interview people from all different verticals within sustainability from around the world. If you're interested in checking it out, you can check it out at sustainabilitynow.global instead of .com. But this interview that I'm talking about isn't posted yet. Sue, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. Sue posted the Sustainability Now podcast link. Great to have you here with us this morning, Sue. Thank you. So anyway, I was doing this wonderful interview with a man named Bill Reed. Good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here with us. I appreciate that you're chiming in. And he works with an organization called Regenesis Group. And what they do is something called regenerative development, which goes way beyond regenerative agriculture, to be looking at what does it mean to regenerate the planet and regenerate ourselves. Anyway, so the conversation was, or a quote that I take from that interview that is so powerful, is that nature doesn't compromise, it harmonizes. And what that means is that within nature, there is an integration of all these different living systems. Good morning, Gia. So good to see you. Beautiful, beautiful. So you just got a message from EWN. I'm really delighted to be able to see you and have you joining us. So what nature does, rather than compromise, which is a lose-lose result, nature harmonizes to find out how to integrate multiple systems to work together to support each other. And if we dig a little bit more deeply into this paradigm shift, what we see is that the foundation of a compromise or lose-lose. Wow, Sue, awesome. So Sue posted the principles of regenerative development. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Going beyond sustainability. That's awesome. Anyway, when we think about harmonizing, no. When we think about compromising, what is the foundational notion? And it's interesting because this goes back to other conversations that we've had with you guys over and over again. Compromise is when you have two opposing forces, and there's a duality there. I want this, you want that, we have to come to agreement, we're in opposition, and, we each have our own interests at heart, and I have to give up something in order for you to make an agreement with me, and you have to give something up in order to make an agreement with me. So we're both losing, we're both ending up dissatisfied, and we are separate and in opposition with one another. And so the flips, well, I don't even know if it's a flip side, but a radically different paradigm from that is harmonize. How can we look at and identify ways of being and ways of interacting that align us, that put us on the same team, that work from a place of oneness and unity, and then identify processes within a bigger system, perhaps looking at a bigger picture. Instead of we have this clash over this issue, let's look at the bigger picture and see where we can align with one another to create a solution that optimizes situations for all of us. And what that may mean is shifting from the original focus into a new focus or a broader focus, That's one of the wonderful techniques for negotiation and reaching harmony, is to jump up to a higher level, because at some level we're going to find that we have values that intersect. So the idea is to transcend and evolve forward from this notion of separation to recognize that we are impacting each other all the time and that we are part of a greater whole. And this shift of paradigm from separation to connection into relationship is the foundational shift that is required, truly required, for us as a species to be able to continue to exist, let alone thrive on this spectacular planet. So much of what we have done in terms of our development has been in opposition to nature, in opposition to others. So we have othered nature, we have othered other humans. We have created this oppositional fight to survive rather than connect to survive, moving into the notion that it takes a village. So Sue, how awesome to have some input here from you. So Sue says, harmonize. How can we look at and identify ways of being and interacting that put us on the same team, and identify and see where we can align to create a solution that optimizes solutions for all of us, a wider perspective. We have values that intersect, and we can go to a higher level to harmonize. Thank you for that, Sue. Wow, that's awesome. I don't know if, is that is that like a transcription of what was said, or is that your encapsulation? I don't even know, because the words just flow. So that's awesome though, to repeat it and to include it in the chat. I so appreciate that. They're my words. Well, I don't know how you captured them so quickly, Sue. Thank you. That's amazing. Anyway, this is true, that we get to be evolving into this new dimension of beingness that brings us connection with one another. And we are, whether we recognize it or not, we are part of a greater system. We are part of an interconnected, interwoven universe, whether we are able to recognize that, whether we choose to recognize or admit it or work with it or not. And when we operate in isolation, we are like a bull in a china shop, because we are not recognizing the impact of our actions and our interactions. And we're not recognizing that our limited sight is limiting our entire possibility. So when we operate from an assumption of this interconnection and interrelationship, new possibilities arise that would never appear if we were assuming that opposition. And when we talk about, to go back to the original source of this conversation, when we talk about regeneration, what does that mean? It means it's an ongoing process. It's not a once and done. It's not, I'm going to put in this system and that's going to resolve things. But regeneration is looking at this bigger system of which we are a part. And I think it's such a profound shift to make ourselves aware of how indoctrinated we are to this notion of separation. And by the way, if you guys are making comments and I'm not responding, it's because I do not see the comments. So please, if you want to write comments, I would love to respond to them. Just go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page, because that's where we're streaming live. And if you put your comments there, then I'll be able to respond to them. So I think that this notion of separation is so pervasive that we don't even notice it. You know, we're like our notion of competition for resources. We're moving from the old notion of Darwinian evolution or survival of the fittest, you know, the way that we used to understand survival of the fittest, that it's a fight to survive, and the strongest species wins and dominates, etc. You know, from conquest and domination, which is a human concept, to collaboration and cooperation. It's a radical shift. And this is the shift of our times. This is the challenge of our times, to rise to a total transformation of perspective. Our cultures, our systems, our businesses are so built on this notion of scarcity and competition. And nature is an abundant and integrated system that we have run roughshod over by our lack of connection. Good morning, Alexandra. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. It's wonderful to see you and great to have you here with us. Thank you for chiming in. So we're talking about the shift from compromise, which is lose-lose, to harmonize, which is win-win. And it, you know, just the fact that we've been willing to accept the notion of lose-lose as a good resolution to conflict is sad. It's sad. We've been conditioned to believe that that's our best option when both parties go away from the table dissatisfied, versus win-win, finding a way to harmonize our interests. Wonderful to see you here, Dido. Thanks so much for chiming in. Dido says perhaps we could think of, oh, I love this, of Darwin as survival of the friendliest rather than survival of the fittest. That's beautiful. I haven't heard that before. Did you make that up? That's very cool. I like that. So those species that are able to collaborate and work in harmony and in consort with other species and these grander systems are the ones that are going to survive, right? And so Dido made that up. I love it. Well, Dido, you should like, I don't know if you can trademark that or copyright that or what, but survival of the friendliest. I love that. That's beautiful and brilliant. So when we are, it goes beyond survival, right? When we move into the paradigm of harmonizing, it moves from survival to thrival. And I did not make up that word, but I don't know if it's made it into the dictionaries or not yet, but from surviving to thriving. And when we look, this was another concept. Oh, okay. So Dido says, no, it's already a thing, but it's still a good thing. The survival of the friendliest. It's a beautiful thing. And as far as I'm concerned, you can take credit for it. Anyway, not that I have any authority in these matters, But when we look at resilience, this is another piece of the puzzle. When we look at resilience, one of the hallmarks of resilience is diversity. And the example that was given to me was the prairie. The prairie has all kinds of different plants that are, living together. And because of it's not just plant diversity, but all kinds of insects and species, etc. Because of its diversity, it has much greater resilience, and it's able to withstand all kinds of weather conditions and climate conditions and all kinds of environmental conditions because of its diversity. And so much of our agriculture, for example, really is trying to create monocultures and eliminating a lot of that diversity, and therefore eliminating a lot of the resilience that our natural or our curated natural environment provides for us. So Alexandra says, how do you harmonize with a family member that believes that being separate is more favorable to them when they don't see the big picture, that the benefit of all is better than the benefit of one? So Alexandra, that's such a great question. And it's not an easy fix. This is a foundational shift of paradigm that needs to happen for humanity. So many of us we've been enculturated to believe that I'm separate from you and I need to protect my interests. This is what our culture is built on. So it's not in any way an easy fix. So it starts with each of us as individuals, and I think that it's an evolutionary and revolutionary process to shift our thinking from the good of ourselves to the good of the whole, and to recognize that the good of the whole impacts the good of ourselves. We're at least in the US, we have been indoctrinated to a very individualistic mindset. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting when like with the current plague, we get to look at a lot of different perspectives where some people believe that we've been told that getting the jab is serving the whole, and that it's an action for the good of the whole, and that may be debatable. I tend to believe that that's debatable. That's me. But when we look at the larger whole, the integration of many systems, we may come to different conclusions, but it's a whole different way of being. It truly is foundationally a very different way of being. And I think it's not something that you can convince someone of. It may be, if there's room to embark on those conversations, then that might be a good place to look, is to be looking at how how we are part of a greater system, and maybe just to keep going beyond the boundaries of this whole to the next one, to the next one. We have nested systems. So I wish I had an easy answer for you, Alexandra. I certainly don't. And Isabel says, we don't come from evolution as Darwin studied as a possibility. I don't know where we come from. So Isabel says on Gaia, Greg Brandon on missing links. I think there are probably quite a few missing links. I love Greg Brandon, but I don't have the answers, that's for sure. So Isabel says it's a huge shift, especially at these times when people do go for the easiest options because that's how they're raised, past few generations especially. Well, yeah, this country was founded on rugged individualism, right? And oh, good, Alexandra. I'm glad to know that that was helpful. We are in a shift. We are in the midst of a massive, massive paradigm shift where we're recognizing as a species that we are not separate from nature. Whether we recognize it fast enough or not is another story, but when we recognize that we need to be working in harmony with and in consort with nature concert with nature rather than trying to dominate and control nature, the sooner we have that recognition, the better, right? And hopefully it'll be soon enough to turn things around. And we're learning a lot more. I think we're beginning to step into some humility, I hope, around our knowingness, because we have arrogantly imagined that we know how the universe works, that we know how nature works, that we know better than nature, and I see a lot of movement toward a bit of humility in being willing to learn from nature, to be asking questions, to be being curious, to be willing to be mentored by nature and its magnificent interplays and elegance and complexity. And so another part of this conversation really is moving away from our reductionist ideas, our mechanistic ideas about how things work. We had the machine age and everything was this gear intersecting with that gear, and then this is the machine, or where we take apart the body to find, the heart's having trouble, so we replace the part that's going bad rather than looking at the system that made that part go bad in the first place. And so I think we're starting, hopefully, we're starting to move into this broader awareness of being part of a whole. And that's really going to be our salvation if we can learn quickly enough to harmonize rather than compromise. And it does require a radical shift of thought and being. And in this venue here on Enlightened World Network, I think many of us are, I don't know that this community is reflective, fortunately, of that more pervasive duality. Hopefully we are on the leading edge of this transformation. And so anyway, let's consider that, and let's look in our lives at the places where we have compromised, and instead look at those places of compromise to see what the possibility of harmonization, of harmonizing might be. So with that, that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I encourage you to check out the other wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network, on EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living. There's so much wonderful, wonderful community and programming happening. And I just want to thank you for being with me and for the light that you share here and with the world. And until next time.